lot has happened in the 2 weeks since I uploaded my Alienware NZXT hybrid video. I liquid cooled my GPU, tore down the NZXT H710 Elite build that I had, and moved and upgraded into the NZXT H710i. And oh yeah, I also moved my studio. So if you remember at the end of my last video for the NZXT Alienware hybrid that I was making, by the end of that video, the only thing left from Alienware was the RAM, the GPU, and the hard drives that I brought over. Everything else was NZXT. So when I had my NZXT, I started running the CAM software, started paying attention to what was going on in my PC. And I noticed the GPU temp was normally about 83 degrees Celsius under load. But the CPU, which was already liquid cooled, would be running around 40 degrees Celsius. So it was over twice as hot for the GPU. And with the GPU, when it was air cooled, this is the air cool apparatus here. So this configuration of the 2080 has the blower fan. So the fan, this would be the bottom. It would suck in cool air from the bottom in the case and then blow it through this heat sink that was on the attached to the GPU to dissipate heat. And then it would blow out the back. And that would blow out the back of my case. It was pretty hot air. But when that thing would get cranking, when it was up to the 83 degrees and it was trying to keep cool, that thing sounded like a friggin' jet engine going off. I mean, my computer got real loud with that fan spinning. So of course I started researching how I could liquid cool a GPU and did some research on that. So I ended up getting the Kraken G12 mounting kit for my 2080, and then I got the Kraken X42, which we were going to use as the coolant. So once I got all that set on the GPU, then I was trying to figure out where the heck am I going to put this radiator and fan in the H710 Elite case. There was pretty much only room for one AIO cooler and radiator system, and I was already using that on the GPU. So I tried to fit it all kinds of different places within the case, and it just would not fit inside the case. So what I ended up doing was I put the radiator through the back of the case on the 510. I put it through where the vertical mount is. I took that out. The radiator fit through there, and then I put the fans on after I put it through there, and then I had all the tubes and cables and everything running through the back of the CPU case. A little bit ghetto, but it wasn't too bad. And then I just essentially had an external GPU liquid cooler on the outside of the case. Worked great. And the way I had it set up when it was outside the case of the 510, I put a fan on each side of the radiator. The one fan was pulling in cool air, or pushing in cool air I should say, and then the other fan was pulling air away from the radiator. So I had the push-pull configuration, which worked pretty good. Whenever I was running on full load after I hooked it up to the liquid cooler, that thing wouldn't go above 39 degrees Celsius. I mean, with whatever game or whatever I was doing with it, it'd get up to about 39 degrees Celsius, stay nice and cool. The CPU was actually hotter than the GPU after I installed it. Right now, while I'm recording this, switch over monitor. You can see, I'm not doing a whole lot on the computer, just doing some recording in OBS. CPU right around 30, 31, and the GPU's nice Cool 26. So under normal operation, these things stay pretty cool, and GPU tends to run a little warmer than the, or CPU seems to run a little warmer than the GPU most times. So, as you know from older videos, Studio used to be in the basement, which was right next to the utility laundry room, so you get all that nice noise of the furnace or the AC depending on time of year, and laundry going, dryer, washer, all that stuff. There was no carpeting down there, so not ideal location when it came to audio as far as background noise, everything bouncing off the floor and the walls and so forth. So during the last couple of weeks, I moved my studio, and now I'm upstairs in what used to be the living room of the house. I got more wall space, carpet on the floor, so absorbs noises a little bit better, sounds a little better. I'm far away from the laundry room and utility room. Unfortunately, I think the only downside of this is the wall behind me. The kitchen's right on the other side of the wall, so might be running to the kitchen a little more to eat, so that might be the only downside of being upstairs, but I do enjoy the look of the new studio. With the external radiator configuration that I'd set up with the H710 Elite case, where I had the GPU radiator on the outside of the case, my OCD got the best of me, and I wanted to put all my components inside one case and not have those hoses coming out of the back. It eventually drove me nuts. So, since it's that time of year, my lovely wife got me an early Christmas present. My NZXT H710i case. So, while I was upgrading to the new case, I figured, well, since I'm upgrading to the new case to make everything look nice and in the same case, I might as well upgrade RAM as well. So, if you remember from my previous video, I got these RGB sleeves and put them on the RAM. Of course, then you had all these wires coming out of them. Then you had to hook it to power, and then you controlled them with a remote. So I thought, well, might as well upgrade to new RAM. all that's built in, and I don't have to have this friggin' bird's nest nasty mess. Even though I had it cleaned up a little bit, but behind the scenes, and all them wires was crap. So ended up getting the Dominator Platinum RGB. Stuck with 32 gigs of RAM. This is what I had with the other configuration. I got 4 8GB sticks because I just like the look of the 4 sticks versus just 2, especially with all the lighting effects you can do with the Dominator Platinum series. So the RAM from Alienware is gone. Now the only thing left over from Alienware in my computer build is the GPU and the hard drives that I brought over. So since moving into the new case, I did vertically mount the GPU because I thought it would look pretty sweet having both the NZXT coolers going so you can see the RGB. And I just think it looks better that way. I did notice, since I put it in the new case, I noticed because putting it in the new case, you remember when it was radiator was on the outside of the old case, I had the push-pull method with a fan on each side of the radiator. Well, putting it in this case, it just has the one fan that's pulling the air through the radiator from outside the case. Outside the front of the case, it's pulling the air through, keep the radiator cool. And then I have my other radiator at the top, and it's also using a pull configuration to pull the hot air out and then get it out of the case. And on the back of the case, in the front of the case, still I have room to suck in cool air, cool the case, and then push the air out of the case, or I guess push it in the case and suck it out the back with the RGB one that I have in back. So with this configuration, with the new configuration inside the case, I did notice that when putting it under load, remember in the 510 case with the external, it used to run at about 39 degrees Celsius and didn't get above that. Now it's a little bit hotter inside the case. I don't know if it's because of switching to the one fan configuration because it's inside the case, or because I switched to a vertical mount, or maybe a combination of all three, but it does run 3 to 4 degrees Celsius hotter. Not the end of the world, because it maxes out at like 42 degrees Celsius under load when I'm gaming. Overall, I'm ecstatically happy with what I have now. Little secret, I do have one more upgrade coming, not for the computer though. For Christmas, I'll be getting another upgrade. I'm not going to say what it is. It'll be in a future video, but it is already here and ready to be wrapped and put under the tree because my wife loves me. This is where I'm at with my build right now, and I think I'm done. Yeah. I think we know better. The only bad thing about this whole process is I'm my only sponsor. I'm not sponsored. So everything that I build, everything I purchase, everything I put in my machines comes out of my pocket. So let's look at the total build cost of my idea a month or so ago to upgrade my Alienware to an NZXT case. That's all I was going to do. Now, granted, little quick reminder, the Alienware I bought back in December was about $2,500 bucks. So this is on top of that. So let's go down the list in order as I purchased them of what I spent for this upgrade. Okay. So the NZXT H710 Elite mid-tower case, 150 bucks. The Easy DIY Fab RGB RAM cooler DDR heat sinks with controller. That's these doohickeys. 22 bucks. Seagate Barracuda 2 terabyte internal hard disk drive at 7200 RPM, 50 bucks. 24 pin extension cable. Remember, I got that when I was trying to use the Alienware motherboard and the power supply cables were too short. That was 8 bucks. J&D 2-pack of ATX 4-pin CPU extension cables. Again, when trying to work with the Alienware motherboard, that was $7. Easy DIY Fab sleeved cable extension kit. Again, still when I was trying to get the Alienware hardware to work inside the case. That was $30. So then at that point, I knew the Alienware motherboard wasn't going to work. That's when I decided, okay, let's upgrade more parts and make this more of an NZXT computer. And at that time I decided, well, I'll just leave the i7 CPU in the Alienware and I'll upgrade to the i9 9900K. So that was $485. Since I was leaving the i7 inside the Alienware, I also didn't want to take the cooler, the AIO that was with the Alienware, which was cool because it had the Alienware logo on, and I think it would have looked pretty slick. But anyway, I decided to leave that too. So then I had to get a new liquid cooler for the i9. So I got the NZXT Kraken X62, which is a 280 millimeter liquid cooler, and that was $141. Then I needed a new motherboard, of course, so I got the NZXT N7Z390 motherboard for $250. Then I needed some thermal paste for putting that Kraken onto the i9. So there's another 10 bucks for the Arctic MX4 thermal compound paste. And if you remember with the NZXT motherboard, there's only, what is it, six USB ports on the back. So I purchased the FebSmart 4-port USB 3.0 expansion card and put in there. That was $26. And I also got RGB fans to put in the case, and that was the NZXT AER RGB 2 3-pack of 120 millimeter RGB fans with Hue 2 light controller. That ran me $90. So then I had my new case, had my setup, and then I decided, man, I sure would like to liquid cool that video card because I had noticed how hot the GPU was running. So then I purchased the NZXT Kraken X42 140 millimeter liquid cooler, and that was $123. And then the NZXT Kraken G12 GPU mounting kit, $25. And then we go to the new case because I didn't want to have my GPU cooler on the outside of the case. So to make all of this happen, I got the Thermaltake TT Gaming PCIe x16 extender riser cable, which is 200 millimeters. That was 25 bucks. That's what runs through the bottom of the video card into the PCIe slot on the motherboard. Because I knew I wanted to vertically mount it when I switched to this one. I also got my RAM upgrade, as I discussed. So the Corsair Dominator Platinum RGB 32 gigabytes, 4 sticks at 8 gigabytes each, DDR4 3200 RAM, $246. And last but not least, the new case, early Christmas present from the wife. NZXT H710i ATX mid-tower case, $174. So the total cost of my little adventure of upgrading from an Alienware case to an NZXT case, $1,862. So yeah, that was the cost. My little upgrade, sponsored by moi and the wife with the early Christmas present. So that is the extent of my adventure over the last, well, altogether over the last month or so, but a lot happened in the last 2 weeks. So I'll get more content out to you. Please subscribe, keep watching, give me your comments. See you the next time.